Right after looking at the film from the first scrimmage, how did you kind of come away from it?
Did some good things. I think we scored 4 touchdowns. All 3 quarterbacks, led a scoring drive. There was also inconsistencies, and that's what we've been talking about, and that's expected in your first scrimmage. The one thing that really stood out is every drive we scored a touchdown, we had an explosive play, and that's something we know, and that's something we've stressed. So that was good for us to be able to show the guys, hey, explosive play, touchdown. And so we had some guys make some plays. We got to make more plays. We got a lot of good evaluation on a lot of guys, and so that kind of helped us springboard into the second week.
Rhett, both you and Jess said on the radio that optimally you'd like to have a decision in about a week or so toward the end of the camp portion of it, but that may not happen.
Right.
Why not? Right, other than the fact that they're probably competing equally, but I mean, why can't you make a decision in an extra couple of weeks after spring? I mean, it's not a newcomer from the spring, is my point.
Well, maybe it's because those guys are doing a good job not making it easy. It doesn't have to be something negative all the time. And so, again, when you break camp and go to school, I think next Tuesday, it'd be great to have things narrowed down or to make that decision. But, again, we're not going to hurry up and make the wrong decision just to make it to say we made it. If we're not making the decision, it's because we have multiple guys that are doing a good job. I can tell you that. It's not because we have 2 or 3 guys that, God, he can't get it done today, he can't get it done. We have guys that are competing. And like I said, all 3 of them did a nice job at times. Jeremy hit a big home run post, got us down to 2 on a scoring drive. Sean hit an explosive play and then made a great throw to Marcus for a touchdown. John hit a big pass to Jason for a touchdown. So all 3 of them did some good things. All 3 of them obviously missed some things. But overall, I'd say they had a solid scrimmage, and they're playing with a chip on their shoulder, and they're competing well. By no means are we where we want to be in 3 weeks. But I would say if we don't make a decision, it's because we feel like that they're making it tough on us.
Is it possible you could even wait till game day?
Yeah, it's always possible. I don't know if we've done that before. It's not maybe ideal, but again, if that's what's best for our team and for those guys, that's what we'll do.
Are all 3 of them still in it at this point?
Absolutely.
Is it possible to have a 2-quarterback system?
It's always possible. It's not common, but it's been done before. So we'll just kind of see where it leads. But again, like I told those guys, we were talking on Saturday. They got a chip on their shoulder. They know what's out there. They know the perception, and all they can do is go to work and do something about it, and not make it easy on us. And that's what they're doing.
Do you have a pecking order even in your own head when you go into each practice about this guy I'm really looking at right now has really taken a step forward, or is it so close that you're not even doing that every day? It's human nature to do.
Yeah, I would say human nature. On the back of our minds, we kind of know how things are progressing. But at the same time, you may think you know something, but you see some other things each day that kind of lends you to say, hey, we just need to keep competing this thing out. And then again, the hard thing is you got 3 guys. So, for example, you have 100-something play scrimmage, but you got 3 guys, and how many reps are they getting with the 1s versus how many with the 2s, and trying to balance out and give them enough reps, same way every day in practice, and just to build enough reps to where you feel like you can make a proper decision. It's hard to do when you're rotating 3. It's different if it's just 2. So that's maybe another thing that makes us, hey, let's take it a little bit longer and make sure. We went live in the spring. We feel like we got all that information we need from a physical standpoint. So
when you guys went into that scrimmage, were you thinking that maybe we'll be able to narrow it down and do that, or and then after the scrimmage you went, we don't know if we can narrow it down? Is that what happened?
Probably a little bit accurate, yeah. I don't think we thought after 1 scrimmage we'd know exactly who the guy was, but it was possible. And again, they all 3 did enough good things to say, hey, this guy deserves to keep competing for the job. And so, yeah, we probably came out and said, hey, we just need to keep this thing going, and we've got week 2. At that point, you only had 5 days in anyways. Let's start now getting to where the reps are reoccurring so we can see who can really continue to take strides forward and who kind of stays the same.
I guess I was speaking about maybe turning it to 2 or whatever. But
In what?
I thought I was saying more maybe turning it to 2 than 1 guy.
Correct,
But,
yeah. No, that's, no, yeah.
But what about Cam Martin? How did he perform in the scrimmage, and how has he responded since then?
He did fine. He's a freshman. The one thing that you saw about him is he's not scared to stick his neck in there, and he's not tiny, but he's not a big guy. He's a speed guy, and a lot of times you worry about those guys, running out of bounds, falling down. He's not that type of guy. But for a guy like him that's fast, you just got to keep repping him because there's a lot going on in his head after, at that time, that was the 6th practice. And if you're a fast guy and you're thinking and hesitating, you play a lot slower than you are. Hey, Nick Marshall's probably a good example. The first 3 or 4 or 5 games of that first year, he didn't run for a whole lot of yards. Well, he had a lot going on in his head. He was kind of learning on the fly, and all of a sudden it just clicked, and he started playing faster. So you just got to kind of hang with those guys, and I think he's doing well. And whenever that point is, it slows down for him, then hopefully you'll see him play faster like he is.
Tailback, do you feel like it's going to be like a 50-50 platoon between Carry On and Bubba? You think they'll split carries pretty evenly?
I don't know, because even the years like last year when we named a guy, and the year before, and then in Trey's year, we didn't know if he was the guy to start the season. Sometimes we got to get in the real game and kind of see how it sorts itself out at that position. Running back's a hard position. At the end of the day, it's all about production. So you got to get them in the game and let them be productive and see who the most productive guy is. So it could balance out that way. It could not.
What have you seen from Petway now that he's moved, full-time back there? Is that whole position where he was so good at?
He's instinctive. He's natural. He's a load. He goes north and south as good as any back I've ever seen. It's just a matter of him continuing to get more and more comfortable with all the runs we run and the reads that are within it. And that's just a repetition thing, the protection side of things. I think he's doing a good job of that. But he just – we're 8 or 9 practices in. He did it a little bit in the spring, but not full time. So, you look at a guy like Carry On, he's way behind him just in a rep accumulation standpoint. But he's doing a nice job, and he's going. He's not going to be fun to tackle at the second level.
Rich, you talk about getting into the first game. Do you have to look at it a little differently with the first game being who it is?
In terms of
In terms of being a little more certain about what you want to do and who you want to do.
Yeah, I think so. And, at the end, the bottom line for us is we got to be a good team offense. And we may have a guy or two emerge as a star, but we may not. If we're a good team offense, it can be different guys each week. And what we're focusing on is guys trying to – right now they're in a lot of a competition phase. Here in the next week or so, give or take, it'll kind of get narrowed down to here's the ones, here's the twos, here's the guys and where they slot. And then it becomes hey, everybody's got to become a star in their own role, and they got to buy into what that role is, and each game is going to be somebody new. But we got to play with tempo. We got to play unselfish, and we have an identity. We know what it is. We've got to be mentally and physically tougher than everybody we play. We're not there yet. It's a process. That's what fall camp's for. Yesterday I didn't think we had a very good practice offensively. Today was better. Wasn't where it needed to be, but they responded a little bit, and we just got to keep pushing them through that as coaches because – we know who we need to be. We know who we've got to be, and it's got to be game one, like you said. But there's no time to go out there and kind of figure it out on the go. We got to be ready to go, and so that's what we're trying to put them in those scenarios right now.
Looking at the scrimmage specifically in this camp in general, how would you like the tempo? We've heard you and guys talk about getting back to our identity a lot.
It's been better. The guys are playing at the tempo we want. I think we're doing a good job of putting them in positions and doing the tempo the way we need. At the end of the day, now it's going to become to when you get to a game, are you productive? If we're not moving the chains, there's not going to be any tempo. You can run 3 plays as fast as you want. If you're punting, you're off the field. So, again, we've said it a million times, that initial first down usually helps because the momentum goes, or an explosive play really goes a long way in the momentum category for us.
Good. You talked about big plays and making plays. Eli Stove's done some of that early on. How much has he helped himself maybe jump into the mix a little bit already?
He's caught our attention. There's no question. He's another guy kind of in the vein of Cameron Martin that he's done some really good things that says, okay, we need to keep working with this guy. He needs to be able to help us this year. There's several freshmen. They need to be able to help us this year. And so we just got to keep kind of pushing them through it. You can't really baby them. You can't bring them along slow. You just got to throw them the fire, throw them in there with the big boys, and they're going to learn to swim. And so he's done enough that says, hey, he's going to be ready to help us. In what capacity, I don't know. But we're going to keep pushing him, and he's got a bright future.
What other freshmen are in that mix there?
Obviously, we've talked about the receiver position we need help. So you got a guy like Eli Stove. You got a guy like Nick Craig. You hope a guy like Kyle Davis, when we get him back, could be in that capacity as well. Obviously, we're trying to give Cameron Martin every chance we can to find out where his role will be, even if it's whether he's got a prominent role, whether it's a depth role. He's a young guy, and just by the nature of that position, we need him. So those are some guys that just off the top of my head, especially at the skill spots. And we have some young guys that we need to develop depth in the O-line, but they're not necessarily true freshmen. At times, he's really shown great strides. He's caught the ball better overall in camp by far than he did in the spring. And he's a smart kid. He's one of those guys, sometimes when things get moving fast, he's just got to process the information correctly. But he can really run. He's a big body. He's one of those guys that we're going to need to, have a breakout year and step up for us.
Rhett, what I was going to ask was, at what point with Kyle do you get to it where you say, well, we just haven't seen him enough at all to even feel comfortable putting him in the first game?
With who?
Kyle Davis.
Oh, Kyle Davis. I don't know. I mean, the receiver position is such that, you'd like to get at least 2 weeks with guys. Full game plan week plus one. And a lot of that will depend on him because freshmen are different. Every guy's different anyways. And then when you're going to have a smaller window, it's just going to depend on him, probably.
What would you say would be the biggest thing that Sean White has going for him in this race right now?
Obviously experience. He's gotten his feet wet and been there. He's had some disappointments playing, but he's also had some successes playing. I think he's proven to his teammates that he's tough as nails and they can trust him on the field, and so that helps. But at the same time, there's a lot of room to grow.
Rhett, can you kind of maybe address this perception that the staff has determined that you need a running option at quarterback when there's history to suggest that that's not exactly true? You've had a Ryan Applin, you've had a Chris Todd,
Correct.
You and a Mitch Mustang.
Dang, it threw me in there. You're really desperate for people on that one.
Right, people who can't run.
I won state in the quarter, right?
I did.
Oh, okay. I mean, it was in Arkansas, and I don't know how fast everybody was, but I think everybody has a short memory, as we understand. I mean, in the last just 6 years, you've got Cam Newton and Nick Marshall. That's two pretty big splashes, and both those guys, what could they do? They could run the football very, very well. I think also in the last 3 years, you're looking at, hey, Nick Marshall, 2 of those years. That's what's in everybody's mind. So the vast majority of people, when they think of Auburn right now, that's what they think of. Nick Marshall, Auburn running quarterback, and that's just what they see. We've had success with all kinds, and whoever that guy is, we feel confident we can build around it. Now, just like last year, guys take a lot of the heat sometimes, and some of it's rightfully so, but we got to be good around them, and they've got to have a good supporting cast. So whoever that guy is, we're going to have to be better around them. But to your case in point, there's no question that a guy who can either run as a dual threat or at least extend plays puts more pressure on a defense. Everybody knows that. But to say you can't win without it, obviously, like you said, we've done it. But I think it's just because it's the nearest thing in the rearview mirror to everybody that's just what everybody assumes.
You mentioned the offense kind of as a unit. When you look at the quarterback competition, how much is that competition going to come down to how the rest of the offense responds to one of those guys as opposed to necessarily just their individual skills?
Well, to say that we're going to decide off what everybody else feels would probably be inaccurate, but I think it has a large degree of weight to be carried with. I mean, at the end of the day, that's your leader on the field. And it's going to be really hard if those other 10 guys out there, and really the whole team, doesn't believe in him. And so it's very important to us that the team rallies around whoever that is and believes in him. So that's a very, very important factor. And that's something that I've talked with those guys about. And I've said with y'all before, hey, one of the criteria is who's going to get out there and make those other guys on the field with them better. And that's a big part of that.
I know you're not coaching offensive line, but you work with the centers a whole lot. What have you seen out of Xavier from the spring to now and how he's running things on the offensive line?
There's a lot more confidence. He's been here a couple years. I think he's used to Coach Hand now in his style. I think he's just more confident. Now, he's doing some really good things in practice. He's communicating better. He's doing all those things. But he hadn't played a lot of games in our league at that position. And so it's kind of like the running back thing. Until you get out there and do it, you always wonder how guys are going to react. But I've been really pleased with how he's reacted in fall camp. And I'd say just confidence is probably the biggest thing.
These scrimmages maybe just as important for him as they are.
There's no question. And center's a huge part of our offense. Obviously, him and the quarterback, the only two guys that touch it every snap, but just in the communication and kind of being a little bit of a field general. And I think he's done a really, really good job. And it helps that he's got a guy like Al and a guy like Braden beside him, guys that played a lot of snaps too.
All right.